And look at how well disciplined and self-regulating. They all got up here on their own and sat in their assigned seating. That's wonderful. Thank you all. So I don't have to introduce them and call them all up. I'll do it individually. Gina McCarthy
I'm
is
not mean.
is our assistant administrator for the Air Office, and she's brought some incredible regulations out in this administration, and we thank her for it, in particular the MATS rule that the administrator talked to you about, and most recently our cross-state rule. But I think Gina also can talk a lot about some of her prior experience where she started a program when she was in Connecticut called No Child Left Inside. Go ahead, Gina.
Wow, I didn't
Or
know you
not,
were gonna
maybe
bring
later.
that up. Maybe I will.
It's a very moving story.
Good
so
morning, everybody. First of all, I want you to know that I know people who live in New Jersey. That is actually my claim to fame. I actually drive through New Jersey surrounded by increasingly clean and fuel-efficient vehicles, which is actually what I do for a living. So I just want to give you an overview of some of the work that I oversee and have the privilege to oversee at EPA with some really fabulous staff people, both political and career staff. Janet McCabe is sitting back there somewhere, who's my principal deputy, who knows more about the Clean Air Act than I will ever know, and has probably forgotten more than I'll ever learn. But we have a great team, and I think that's why we've been successful under the leadership of the administrator and President Obama to deliver a number of well overdue rules that are tremendous public health protections that I think we'll all for many decades get to enjoy. I will tell you that I believe that the Clean Air Act is probably the most successful and efficient public health law that has ever been passed by Congress, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that the promises of the Clean Air Act are delivered in this administration. Let me highlight some of the things that we do. I know that many of you have been actively engaged in these issues. First of all, I want to thank you for it, and secondly, I want to remind you that it ain't over. Okay, so everything I'm telling you that is a success is still up for grabs, whether it's in the courts or on the Hill. And it's unfortunate, but it is the fact of life. You are the people of the people, for the people, by the people. People, you got to stick with us. So let me just give you a quick overview. And the first thing is that the administrator is given the authority and the responsibility to establish national ambient air quality standards. That is taking a look at some of the most pervasive pollutants and identifying a level that is sufficiently protective of public health and the environment with an adequate margin of safety. Now, what that really means is that we do things like look at lead and ozone and NOx and other pervasive pollutants that are significant problems in terms of public health that create both public health diseases and problems in and of themselves, but they also exacerbate problems like asthma. We are now moving forward. We have already moved forward with a number of NACs adjustments during this administration. We're going to be tackling particulate matter. You need to be there for us. The National Ambient Air Quality Standard for particulate matter is one of the most important public health measures that we can deliver for American families, for you, for your children. We are going to be moving forward with that, and we need your help to make sure that we get those over the finish line. I will tell you that on Wednesday I'm testifying at a very exciting hearing at House Energy and Commerce, in which I am testifying on a law that would actually require the administrator to consider cost and feasibility when establishing science-based health standards. I will not be testifying in favor of that. I just want to put it on your radar screen, because while we've enjoyed the National Ambient Air Quality Standards that have driven tremendous results in terms of health benefits for the American families, that continues to be at significant risk. Now, you and I know that science needs to drive these decisions. You look at costs when you look at implementation, not at telling the truth about what constitutes clean air to breathe. That's when science has to rule. And that's what's at risk every day. So let's keep at it. Okay, now what drives those ambient... should I
Go,
continue? Or
Gina.
should I?
No,
Am I
no,
done?
go, Gina.
Have I hit the pinnacle of what I'm going to say? Okay, very quickly. National ambient air quality standards. We also have stationary source measures that look at both stationary sources and mobile sources. That's where the mercury and air toxic standard came in. We look at industrial sources and we apply the best reductions we can for toxics based on the technologies that are out there and what the best industries are doing so that all industries can continue to be challenged and reduce toxics. You and I know that we don't know all the risk associated with those toxics being breathed in by ourselves and our children. The best we can do is take the best technologies available, continue to get them into industry moving forward. That's where MATS came in. That's where we're going to drive hundreds of thousands of people to live better lives, longer lives. We are looking at issues related to cross-state air pollution. We've driven those. We're finalizing a new rule on boilers. That's industrial, commercial, and institutional boilers. We're moving forward with refinery rules. Those are incredibly important. Don't let anybody tell you that our rules are driving up the cost of gasoline. Our rules are driving efficiencies into the system, are delivering cleaner fuels, are delivering health benefits and improvements that save lives, that save money for American families when you look at both the costs and the benefits. Folks forget the benefits who want to make that argument. All right, I want to also tell you that we're looking at oil and gas. We're looking at emissions from fracking operations. We are going to be delivering a final rule early next month that will address those issues in your communities. We've already delivered on mobile sources. You heard about the light-duty vehicle rules. It doesn't end there. That continues to be a beginning. We're looking at cleaner fuels, lower sulfur fuels, fuels that would deliver consistent reductions in particulate matter for people. We are looking at the maritime industry, continuing to drive reductions around ports, areas where that are of concern to individuals. We're looking at communities most at risk and driving the reductions to those communities as fast as we can. We're not just focused on public health. We're looking at visibility. We're looking at acid rain. We're looking at Montreal protocols that look at the ozone. We are dealing with all of those issues. We are also moving on the issues of climate. Don't let anyone tell you that because we didn't get a climate bill, we're not addressing greenhouse gases. It is simply wrong. We are regulating greenhouse gases as a pollutant under the Clean Air Act for the first time ever. This administrator made the call that they endanger public health and welfare, and we're moving forward to actually deal with permitting. We have now new data that tell you where all greenhouse gases are being emitted from the largest industries. Check that out. It's great information, allows you to take action in your own communities. We're looking at new source performance standards for new power plants that are going to be issued soon. We are also pushing forward with voluntary programs because it's not about regulation, it's about changing behavior as well. We're looking at Energy Star. How many people look at Energy Star when they're buying appliances? Raise your hand. 80% of you, I just counted it up, know about the Energy Star label and are moving forward on those things. We're working on the international front with Michelle and others to actually look at issues not just about climate, but look at what we call short-lived climate pollutants, a new initiative that's driving down methane. That's things from cook stoves. Cook stoves actually kill 2 million people a year. 2 billion people a year across the world because women are trying to feed their families over open flames, over stoves that are killing their children and themselves. We can do better than that as a nation. We can do better than that as a country. We have cook stoves problems in the U.S. We can drive technologies forward internationally that take care of those issues. And last but not least, we are looking at indoor air quality. I always say last but not least because it's always last. And in many ways, it should be first. We're looking at healthy homes. We're looking at issues associated with radon, asthma. We're looking at radiation issues in general. We are looking at trying to deliver on the promises of the Clean Air Act, and we're trying to deliver for American people the kind of clean air that they deserve, whether they're outside playing, which is what I tried to get them to do in No Child Left Inside, or they're inside doing their homework. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gina. And in case any of you are wondering, I think that Gina has not slept in 38 months. You know,
Drink a lot of coffee.
I'm quite a bit done. I'm next going to probably mangle something I want to say about Barbara Bennett, but I think it also goes to show you, I asked each of the panelists, would they please send me some information about themselves so that I could ask a question, and none of them did. So, and why I think that's noteworthy is that they don't boast. They just get it done, as do you all. But so I'm making some of this stuff up, or I'm trying to, see what I could get from the website, which is Barb Bennett, I think, wrote a blog called Talk About Girl Power. And I think that's really significant. She's one of the very few CFOs of an agency with an actual business background. She's certainly the first in our agency. She was CEO of the Discovery Channel and is not necessarily Discover. CFO. Thank you. Not good in math or business myself, but has never forgotten that and has continued to remind us that nevertheless there is only 3% of the positions held by CEOs in the Fortune 500 are women. So she's still working at this, and we are privileged for her to be bringing her business acumen to EPA.
Thanks, Vicki. And I got to tell you, it's always tough to go after Gina. She's amazing. And great work. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's tremendous to see such a room full of great women, great executives, and doing all the good work that you're doing. I am the CFO of EPA, so my responsibilities are all the financial management of the agency, whether that's performance and financial reporting, the annual planning, budget execution, strategic planning for the agency. So that falls under my purview. And so I'm lucky enough in a CFO role. It's called the Office of the Chief Financial Officer. In the private sector, it's called finance. So in the finance role, being able to see across the agency and ways of how we can impact not only the administrator's priorities, but the good work that is on the ground with Gina and with Cynthia and with Nancy and the like, as well as in the regions. So my role is, although you don't necessarily see finance people on the front lines in the communities themselves, what we do are the behind the scenes to making sure that priorities are kept in the forefront, that we are focused on priorities within the agency. When Gina says, gee, I need some upgrades at the Ann Arbor lab because of the fuel efficiency standards that are coming forward, we're talking about it and say, all right, what do we need to pitch for? And Cynthia is working on how do we do remote monitoring, the fence line monitoring that she talked to. How do we make a pitch for having an initiative that can fund some of that research? Whether it's our R&D area that is doing amazing groundbreaking research on hydraulic fracturing and some of the impacts in hydraulic fracturing, making sure that we make the case that this is good, solid use of taxpayer money and for the American people, and then looking at it from the regular business background that I come from in terms of driving performance, what's the return that we're getting, making sure that good solid stewardship is in place. So I'm very fortunate that we have an administrator that allows me to do that. As you might expect, being the CFO of a governmental organization is very different than being a CFO in a private sector company, right? So yes, you drive performance, you manage expectations, and you really try to optimize balance sheet, and that's different to optimize balance sheet in the government. So where I've been able to get involved and say, all right, well, what are the assets then of an organization like EPA? We have these amazing labs, we have these amazing people that that work every day on the front lines. And so what I try to do is bring a business perspective in terms of the intersection of research, policy, and private markets. So that because it's not just about to do particular environmental investing or sustainability investing because it's the right thing to do or the good thing to do. Although you may get the first dollar, I always say it'll be hard pressed to get the second dollar until you can actually prove the business case and actually prove the return on investment. So what we're trying to do is bring together more and more of not only the federal agencies but local communities, academia, industry, the financial community, in terms of a dialogue on either what we can be doing at EPA differently in terms of the visibility of what we're going forward on, or what can EPA learn about some of the obstacles that industry or the financial community deals with. So so what are a couple of things that we've done? We've had the great occasion to, last year we were able to convene with Nancy Stoner and our R&D office in terms of a water technology innovation cluster based in the Ohio River Valley. So bringing together federal agencies, the local, the mayor of Cincinnati, the University of Cincinnati, venture capital, industry, all focused on water technology and really building a cluster focused on, we care about the environmental solutions. We have this amazing water lab in Cincinnati on drinking water and some of the issues that we're dealing with drinking water. And so we care about the solutions, and yet also making sure that it's not just us by ourselves, that this community works together on providing good solutions. Also, we've been involved in the I-6 Green Challenge with the Department of Commerce that supports 6 green tech regional proof of concept centers. The Jobs and Innovation Accelerator Challenge, which supports 20 regional innovation clusters around the country. We're trying to replicate the cluster concept around the country. Internally, we've developed a technology innovation roadmap, which is the agency's commitment to innovative, sustainable efforts internally as well as the external outreach. And then in May, we're going to be hosting our first Technology Market Summit, bringing together federal agencies, industry, the financial community, academia, all about how do we work together in support of environmental technology, because none of us can do it just all by ourselves. Some of you know that we have started reaching out to Wall Street. So we have Erica Karp from UBS, who was one of our very first. The CEO of UBS invited Administrator Jackson and myself to come and speak to a group, and it was tremendous to hear a two-way conversation. Last week, I spoke at the Wall Street Green Summit. So this is a part of expanding the conversation on environmentalism. You expect to see us in green space, but what we're trying to do is say, look, the financial community needs to know and needs to hear what we're doing, needs to understand, and we need to understand the hurdles. You hear about the $2 trillion of cash that's sitting on the sidelines, waiting for the economy, waiting for opportunity. And so let's see if we can get the environmental technology space to get a slice of that financial capital access to the market. So that's what I'm trying to bring to the agency and work with these amazing women and amazing people at EPA and in the administration. I know not all of you are directly in the environmental space. You may intersect with it in terms of your jobs. I know all of us care about it personally. But so I just thank you and look forward to hearing from you ideas that we need to keep in mind. And again, from a business perspective, in terms of what are the hurdles you're facing and what might we be able to do differently, or maybe we should take in mind in terms of how we go forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. It's been a challenging year for us, and the fact that we're here is in no small part due to Barbara and her vigilant efforts at keeping us intact. So thank you. So Sarah Hospodor-Pallone is our Deputy Associate Administrator for the Office of Congressional and Intergovernmental Relations. In response to Judith's comment about it being the 80s or over and I forgot to have children, which I did. Sarah did not, and she is a mom with a mission, and she started becoming very cognizant of environmental issues, she said, as a mom, seeing what her kids were eating and drinking and the quality of the air that they were breathing. She started, that led her to become interested in the PTA. She became the PTA president, and then there has been no holding her back ever since. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And I know it's hard to follow power and money, but being from New Jersey, transition would be good. So yes, for all those from New Jersey, thank you, first of all of you, for coming here. And we'll have an opportunity to speak with you more directly shortly. But I really appreciate the fact that we are all experts in one thing, and that's multitasking. Not because we want to do it, but because we have to do it. We are driven to do because we're mothers, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're spouses, we're best friends. And so for all of those reasons, there are a few things in life that give such tremendous pleasure as giving back to your community. And the one thing I've heard all of our speakers talk about thus far has been just that, communities. And that's where my intersection with the agency comes in. I handle state and local government relations with our organizations. Most prominently are those small local communities that come in to see us that don't have the hired guns, the Washington lobbyists, to bring them through the doors. They are responding to a concern that was raised by one of their constituents. And oftentimes it's a mom or a grandmother or a sister or someone who has had something happen in their lives that has driven them to a cause. That's how some of our communities enter into our agency. I want to share with you a little story that highlights some of what I do. We had, in the summer of 2010, there were 2 oil spills. Everybody knows about the one, but there was a second oil spill in Michigan. And it was one of the largest inland oil spills in this country, with over 1 million gallons of oil that ruptured into a small creek in rural Michigan. I was sent out by the administrator to help Susan Hedman, who is our Region 5 regional administrator. We've got a lot of strong women in this agency. She was tasked with running the emergency response. And as most of our emergency response action happens, it starts with a call to 911 with a resident complaining about a smell of something that wasn't quite right or seeing something that didn't quite look right. After the first 24 hours, Susan was on the job, on site, and she was empowered to put together a command post, which has a whole structure that goes along with it through multiple levels of government, at the state level, at the county level, and at the municipal level. That team, it's no short fascination that team came together, worked well, and worked beautifully on emergency response. That's not something we hear a whole lot about in what our agency does, but it is vital to our communities, and it is vital to protecting our public health and safety. So in Michigan, this wonderful team was assembled. We pulled together community organizations and interested stakeholder groups, as well as members of the public, to talk about what was happening, what was going on, and what the response was going to be, and how we do our work. We culminated that first week with a community outreach forum, which was done in expo style, where people could come in and see what samples of the product looked like. They could talk to the people taking the air sampling results and taking the water quality sampling, and find out how they did their work and why that work was so vital to that community. It was interesting, at the end of the week, we had a press conference, and it struck me at that point, during the press conference, listening to the administrator, the governor, the senator, and the regional administrator presenting what they had done. All of them were women. Administrator Jackson, Governor Granholm, Senator Stabenow, and Susan Hedman, regional administrator. And so, yeah. In that case, it took women to get the job done. So I just put that out there. But it just really is, and by the way, the cleanup is still ongoing and will be going on for quite some time, as you know, and most environmental cleanups aren't done in a week. They're over the course of a period of years, and many years in some instances. I wanted to just also finish with one note in that you all are activists at heart. As women, we have to be. I mean, that's just simply it. The New York Times had an article this morning, which I, just flipping through the pages before I came here, found fascinating. And it says, gender gap, ? What gender gap? And that headline really struck me because on the face of it, we know we have a tremendous gender gap. But then when you read the content of the article, it talks about Washington State and Governor Christine Gregoire, Senator Maria Cantwell, and Senator Patty Murray. Very, very unique. Washington State is the only state where 3 women are in the top leadership political positions. So if there is ever a time for call to service, now is that time for women, and we really need to have more women engaged, not only in the political process by running for office, but the process by activism and community engagement and getting people together to talk about the issues that matter most. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Well, Sarah set me up for a great segue because Gwendolyn Keys Fleming ties together those 2 attributes of responding to the call to service and engaging in the community. Gwendolyn is now our Region 4 Regional Administrator, which covers 7 states and 8 states, 6 tribal nations. And prior to coming to EPA, she was a district attorney for DeKalb County, the first African American, the first female to hold that position. That's the call to service part. And the community part is that during her tenure there, she really pushed and created several community outreach programs that were all relating to crime prevention on behalf of women, children, and vulnerable populations, and in particular one called Just Us Gals that had to do with middle school, and she may talk about those some.
Good morning. Let me say that I bring greetings from the best region, Region 4. It has the most states. We have 8. We have about 61 million folks.
But it doesn't have New Jersey.
But I'm from New Jersey. I am a New Jersey native, Rutgers grad, Douglas College, all women's college graduate, actually. It's true. And so it is my pleasure to serve as the regional administrator. I also bring greetings on behalf of my chief of staff, a woman. First time we've had a woman in that position in the region, Javon Hicks White. I also have a special assistant who is a woman. And so you can imagine the picture of the 3 of us walking into any meeting in the Southeast. It just gives me great pride when we go in and let folks know that we mean business. My job, again, I run the administrator's office in the Southeast. We run it out of Atlanta. We cover the 8 states of Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Kentucky. So try to say that 10 times fast. We also have 6 tribal nations in the region as well. And my role, largely, I break down into 3 segments. First and foremost, to provide assistance to the folks here in Washington with respect to setting regulatory environmental policy and then implementing that policy on the ground. The second, which I admit I still derive great pleasure from, is handling violations of those regulations. I can't let the district attorney thing go for some reason. But we do that obviously through permit enforcement or actually bringing civil or criminal cases against violators. And then the last part of my job is one of the main reasons why I took this job was being able to go out and do community outreach and empowering communities. I spent about 17 years in my former hat protecting communities from crime. Now I have the opportunity to protect those same communities with respect to their environment and their human health. And I take great pride in that. I am probably one of the newest folks here at EPA, just coming into the environmental realm. I've only been here for about 18 months. So I'm just curious, how many of you have been doing environmental work for 5 years or less? Just raise your hand. Couple? Anybody 3 years or less? Well, I think it's important, and I think it's perfect. I think the great thing about that is we need to understand the power that we have to bring new folks into the fold. I'll admit, as a mom, I have 2 young boys, and even while I was district attorney, I would recycle, I would try to conserve energy by shutting off light bulbs, all the things that you are normally told, but it wasn't until I came to EPA that I understood really how those little things matter, how shutting off a light bulb helps improve water quality in Appalachia, because hopefully they won't have to mine as many coal mines or use the coal to be able to generate that energy. So it really is connected, and one of the things that we work very hard to do is support Administrator Jackson's last 2 goals of expanding the conversation on environmentalism and working to build strong state and tribal partnerships, but really partnerships with everybody. I jokingly say anywhere 2 or more are gathered, I'm going to talk about the environment. And it's important because the other thing that the administrator says is that environmentalists don't just wear Birkenstocks anymore. I jokingly add they now wear slingbacks and Cole Haan and Louboutin, Converse Keds, maybe no shoes at all. It includes everybody. Anybody who takes a breath of air is an environmentalist because it's in their best interest to have that breath be a clean one. And so we work really hard, again, to expand that conversation. And so some of the things that we've done recently, and it involves several women that are here, last September we did an event. It was first of its kind for the region. We combined with Mo Ivory from the CBS radio affiliate. Raise your hand, Mo. In the Southeast, they have an event called For Sisters Only. It was their 20th anniversary. They had over 40,000 women and other attendees. And if you can imagine, anytime you bring tens of thousands of women into any one space, men are sure to follow. So it was a very, they're going to go where the women are. I mean, it was a very diverse crowd, and we were able to partner with the radio station and create a green pavilion where we were able to talk about a lot of the work that we do at EPA in environmental justice. We had a children's section where the children could spin the wheel and learn about their environment. We handed out environmentally friendly light bulbs, and the line was just kind of around the corner. It was absolutely amazing. The gentleman that was heading up that part of it as a nonprofit, he had to go back to his warehouse to get more products. So, and we were able to do radio spots and again, get the message out about the little things that you can do. I think in my experience, I'll admit, I was a little intimidated that I didn't think I knew the science well enough. How am I going to branch into this new realm? And believe me, I have a great staff that helped ease that transition, but it all comes down to things we know and do every day. How we brush our teeth, we want that water to be clean. Again, going back to just being able to breathe clean air. So really, there's no reason for us to be shy or intimidated about launching into the environmental realm. It's something that we all can do. One of the other projects that we are currently doing is with Denise Quarles, who's the new Sustainability Officer for the City of Atlanta. Raise your hand, Denise, real quick. She is literally 30 days, 60 days into the job. About that. And so we are working with her to implement the President's Challenge. Atlanta was selected as one of the few better buildings cities around the country. So we're working with the business community. We've talked to the Metro Chamber. They are focusing on sustainability going forward. We're looking at making Atlanta a zero waste city as part of another pilot to protect and clean up our lands. So there's a lot of opportunity. One of the other great things we've done is, those of you that know about Atlanta, there is an old train track that goes around the city that's kind of inside the 285 mega highway. Well, they're now connecting that rail, and we've been using brownfields money from our brownfields group, along with working with our environmental justice roots, because a lot of these spots are in some of the minority communities around the city, to try to beef up these areas, make them more environmentally friendly, support green gardens, support a lot of the community projects that are going on there. We have a great project with the Coretta Scott King Academy for Women and Girls, Siskiwala is what it's called. It's the all-women's elementary school in the city of Atlanta, and so we've gone out, supported their community garden, and also, believe it or not, taught them how to do their own air monitoring. So when you talk about idling with buses on campus, looking for good air zone days, bad air zone days, we are empowering them to help make smart decisions for themselves and hopefully train up some more engineers and scientists as we go forward. So those are just some of the things that we're doing. But again, it really comes back to making it a personal story. You heard Gina talk about it's the people. People, people, people. I often tell folks the story. I have a 3-year-old son, and we took him to school one day. They were going out to recess, and he was playing with this little girl. And all of a sudden, the teachers, they were all getting ready to line up to go outside, and the teacher says, well, hold on a second. She stepped out of the room, did something, came back, and then told the little girl, you can't go outside today. And it hit me. You know, I looked at my 3-year-old. He was disappointed that the friend he'd been playing with all morning, he's now not able to play with. And it was because it was a bad air zone day and she had asthma. I mean, that's what it comes down to, the basic understanding that that child either got to play that day or breathe that day. And rules like Matt's help to make sure that that child can breathe.
Thanks very much, Gwen, and thanks to all on this panel. Unfortunately, they proved Nancy Stoner correct. It is hard to limit yourself to 3 to 5 minutes. So we have run out of time for questions from the audience, for which we apologize. But we will be heading into the breakout sessions, and Hallie will come up and tell you that. And thanks very, very much, and bring the message, and you all do great work, too. Thank you.